All right, we're about to take a trip back in time. We're talking nearly 2,000 years, to a single catastrophic day. We're going to witness the final terrifying hours of a city that was literally wiped off the map. Just think about that for a second. That was the reality for the people of Pompeii. A day that started out completely normal, but ended as one of the most infamous natural disasters in all of human history. And to really get a grip on how it all ended, we first have to understand how they lived. So to really feel the weight of this tragedy, we've got to understand the vibrant life that was lost. What was it actually like to live in Pompeii, right before everything changed forever? Yeah, Pompeii was no sleepy little village, that's for sure. It was this bustling, thriving center of Roman life. I mean, just try to imagine the sounds, the energy. You've got merchants yelling about their goods in the market, huge crowds roaring in the amphitheater, the constant chatter and steam from the public baths. It was this amazing mix of lavish villas and humble homes, with vineyards and workshops all over the place. For the more than 20,000 people living in Pompeii and nearby Herculaneum, that mountain looming over them, Vesuvius, it wasn't a threat. It was just scenery, a beautiful green backdrop to their very busy lives. But here's the thing. That beautiful mountain wasn't sleeping. It was stirring. It was sending out signals, warning signs, but the people of Pompeii just didn't have the context to understand what they were seeing. And when you look back, the warnings had been coming for years. In 62 AD, a massive earthquake just rocked the whole region, leveling buildings all over Pompeii. In fact, 17 years later, when the eruption happened, they were still rebuilding from that quake. Then, a couple of years later, another big tremor hits Naples while the Emperor Nero is literally on stage performing, and in the days right before the eruption, the shakes became more frequent. But, as the only eyewitness we have, Pliny the Younger, wrote, they just were not particularly alarming. And you have to remember, the Romans didn't even have a word for volcano. To them, Vesuvius was just a mountain. They have no way to connect earthquakes with an eruption. To them, this was just a shaky part of the world to live in. And then it happened. The mountain's long silence was completely shattered. And incredibly, we have a terrifying first-hand account of this moment, all thanks to one man who watched the entire apocalypse unfold from across the bay. Okay, but before we get to what he saw, there's this really fascinating detail that modern science has actually corrected. For centuries, everyone thought this all went down on August 24th. But, archaeologists have found clues that tell a totally different story. Things like pomegranates and autumn fruit, warming braziers found in houses, and victims dressed in heavier clothing. It all points to a much later date, probably October or even November. It seems like a small thing, but it really paints a clearer and, frankly, colder picture of that final day. So it's around 1 in the afternoon, and Vesuvius just explodes. Watching this from about 18 miles away in the town of Misenum is a 17-year-old kid named Pliny the Younger. He later wrote down everything he saw in a letter, and it's because of him we have this incredible, vivid description. He said the cloud looked like a giant pine tree, a massive trunk rising into the sky and then spreading out into branches. What an image, right? It's so powerful and ominous, and it has pretty much defined how we see this event ever since. And get this, his description was so spot on, so incredibly accurate, that modern volcanologists have named this exact type of massive eruption a Plinian eruption. They literally named it after him. A letter from a teenager 2,000 years ago became the scientific benchmark for one of nature's most violent events. How wild is that? So as this monstrous cloud just keeps expanding, it starts to black out the sun. Can you even imagine the terror? It's the middle of the day and it's suddenly turning into a pitch black night, darker than any night you've ever seen. Pliny's words just perfectly capture that horror, a world plunged into this unnatural, suffocating darkness. For the people right there in Pompeii, day had quite literally turned to night. And that darkness, that was just the beginning. The eruption was about to unleash a level of force that is, well, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Let's try to break down the science of this destruction. Just look at the raw numbers. Okay, so that first blast, it's just mind-boggling. It shot a column of superheated ash and gas 33 kilometers. That's 21 miles straight up into the stratosphere. To put that in perspective for you, that is more than 3 times higher than a 747 flies. Just straight up. And as this column is shooting into the sky, the volcano is just vomiting out molten rock and ash at a rate that is staggering, 1.5 million tons every single second.
The amount of energy released was like 100,000 of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima. Just an unbelievable, raw display of nature's destructive power.
But the deadliest part of this whole thing wasn't even the falling rocks, collapsing roofs. No, it was something far worse, the pyroclastic surge. Basically, when that giant column in the sky got too heavy to support itself, it collapsed. And when it did, it sent this avalanche of superheated gas, ash, and rock roaring down the side of the mountain at hundreds of miles per hour. There was absolutely no outrunning it, no escape. And the heat, it's just unimaginable. By the time the fourth one of these surges hit Pompeii, the temperature was around 300 degrees Celsius. That's 572 Fahrenheit. That is hot enough to kill you in a fraction of a second. We're talking instant death from thermal shock, even before the ash had a chance to suffocate you. It was a swift and completely terrifying end. And then, after 2 days of hell, it stopped. A deep silence fell over the Bay of Naples. Vesuvius had completely buried Pompeii and the surrounding towns. But in that act of total destruction, it had accidentally created a time capsule, one unlike anything else on Earth. It's this incredible paradox, isn't it? The very same stuff that brought death also brought perfect preservation. Those thick layers of ash and pumice created an airtight seal, protecting everything, buildings, paintings, even a loaf of bread still in an oven, from the elements. And so the city just slept. It lay there, forgotten for more than 1,500 years, a perfect snapshot of Roman life just waiting for someone to find it. So fast forward to the 19th century, archaeologists are excavating and they start finding these strange empty pockets in the hardened ash. At first they didn't know what they were, but they soon realized these were the voids left behind by decomposed bodies. And then one of the lead archaeologists had this absolutely brilliant idea. What if we poured liquid plaster into these holes? And they did. And as the plaster hardened, it created these unbelievably detailed casts, capturing the final postures, the final moments of the victims. It was a technique that gave a human face to this ancient tragedy in a way that nothing else ever could. And maybe the most heartbreaking example of this is a place called the Garden of the Fugitives. This is where they found the casts of 13 people, a whole group of adults and children huddled together in what was once a vineyard. You can see from their positions that they had made it over the first layer of fallen rock and were desperately trying to flee towards one of the city gates when that pyroclastic surge just caught them. It's this haunting, frozen snapshot of a family's last desperate attempt to escape. It makes you wonder, right? Why, after almost 2,000 years, are we still so completely captivated by the story of Pompeii? Well, I think the answer is in that strange paradox we talked about. Pompeii wasn't just destroyed, it was preserved. What we have there isn't just a pile of ruins, it's a complete world, giving us this totally unfiltered peek into the past. We don't just see the stories of emperors and generals, we see the lives of ordinary people, their homes, their kitchens, their jokes scrawled on the walls as graffiti. It creates this incredibly vivid human connection to a world that's long gone. But it's also, of course, a humbling reminder of the sheer power of nature, a reminder of just how fragile our civilizations really are. In the end, Pompeii's story isn't just about an ending. It's about a single, terrible moment, frozen in time for all of us to see.